When you finally make the decision to bug out, your greatest threat is not starvation or the elements, it is visibility. In the modern world, being seen is a death sentence. Long before you ever see them, a pair of eyes could be watching you from a distance. These eyes might belong to desperate people. They might belong to something far more advanced, a silent observer humming miles above your head. Every choice you make, color of your tent, time you cook your meal, sends a signal out into the world. You must assume someone, or something, is always looking for that signal. The wilderness is no longer a guaranteed sanctuary. It has become a transparent landscape under constant surveillance. Think about the technology at play. We're not just talking about a pair of binoculars on a distant ridge. Commercial drones, satellite imagery, thermal imaging. A bright blue tarp stands out like a beacon against a forest floor. A crackling cookfire is a glowing bullseye for anyone with a thermal scope. These are the new predators of the modern survival landscape, and they are ruthlessly efficient. Your old-school woodcraft skills are still vital, but they are no longer enough on their own. The good news is that this technology, as advanced as it is, has weaknesses. It can be deceived, it can be outsmarted. The methods to do so are not complex, nor do they require expensive military-grade equipment. In fact, they are principles that have been proven by generations of guerrillas, hunters, and trackers throughout history. They understood that the key to survival was not to fight the environment, but to disappear into it completely. This is what we will explore today. I'm going to show you how to build a bug-out camp that is nearly invisible, even from the prying eyes of a drone. We will cover the simple, legal, and time-tested techniques to erase your presence from the landscape. The goal is to make your camp a ghost, a place that leaves no trace on the visual, thermal, or auditory spectrum. We will break down the art of concealment into practical, actionable steps that you can practice and master. From selecting the perfect, undetectable location, to managing your light, heat, and noise discipline with precision. Every detail matters, because the smallest mistake can compromise your entire position. Survival, in a grid-down scenario, is a game of shadows. Your objective is not just to endure, but to remain unseen. The best prepared survivor is the one nobody ever knew was there. Let's begin. The very nature of survival has been rewritten by modern technology. In the past, a deep forest, a remote mountain valley, offered a reliable shield from prying eyes. Hiding was a matter of getting far enough away from civilization. That is no longer the case. Today, the wilderness is watched. Drones, some small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, can patrol vast areas with near-silent efficiency. Equipped with high-resolution cameras, thermal cameras, they can detect the slightest unnatural disturbance. The game has changed. Your concealment must evolve beyond simple woodcraft. It now requires a deep understanding of how to defeat not just the human eye, but the electronic one as well. The old rules of staying hidden are only half the story now. The primary objective is no longer just camouflage, it is total signature reduction. You must think about every signal your presence creates. This means managing 4 key signatures that can give you away. First, light signature, the flicker of a campfire, the beam of a flashlight, the glint of sunlight off gear. Second, thermal signature, the heat from your body and your fire that glows like a beacon on a thermal imager. Third, noise signature, chopping wood, talking, or the clanging cookware that travel farther than you think. Finally, and most critically, is your shape signature, the unnatural lines of tents or equipment that stand out against the organic chaos of nature. This brings us to the core mission, to systematically erase every one of those signatures until your camp becomes a ghost in the landscape. We are going to deconstruct the process of building an invisible camp, piece by piece. This isn't about expensive ghillie suits or military hardware, it's about using your knowledge of the environment and your adversary's technology against them. It's about discipline and an unwavering attention to detail. Every single action, from how you gather firewood to how you set up your shelter, must be viewed through the lens of signature reduction. The margin for error is razor thin when a drone can scan an entire valley in minutes. Your survival depends on perfection in the art of staying unseen. As we go through these techniques, keep one question in mind. What is the single biggest mistake that even experienced preppers make with concealment? It's a simple error, but it's the one that gets more camps discovered than any other. It has nothing to do with the color of your tarp or the type of fire you build. It's a subtle but deadly habit that creates a pattern, and patterns are what surveillance systems are designed to find. I will reveal exactly what that mistake is near the end, but first, we must lay the foundation. Let's start with the most important decision you will ever make. Choosing your location. The first and most critical rule of camouflage is that location is everything. Before you even think about setting up a tarp or gathering firewood, your choice of location will determine 90% of your success or failure. The old survival rule, seek the high ground, can be deadly now. A ridgeline, a hilltop, any prominent peak, they silhouette you against the sky. You become an obvious target from the valley, and to drones from above. Drones and satellites have an unobstructed view of ridgelines. You are a dark feature on the horizon, easily spotted. Resist that instinct. Instead of climbing up, think down and deep. Use terrain that breaks up lines of sight from ground and air. Look for depressions in the land, ravines, gullies, deep draws. They hide you from horizontal view and give a natural ceiling of earth and vegetation. Riverbanks with steep, undercut sides can be phenomenal shelter. Let the landscape do the heavy lifting, tuck your camp into it. Think like water, flow to the lowest, most concealed points. Always assume you are being watched from above. When scouting, stop and look up. What do you see? If you can see a large patch of open sky, a drone can see you. Find heavy overhead cover. This is your primary defense against aerial observation. Dense tree canopies are your best friend. Look for old-growth forests, thick, interlocking branches forming a nearly solid roof. Stands of evergreens, pine, and fir work year-round. Rock shelves and overhangs are another excellent option. They offer a solid, impenetrable barrier against visual and thermal detection from above. Think of it as a natural garage to park your camp in. Before settling, consider the approaches. How would an observer, human or machine, scan this area? Avoid camp in the middle of a clearing, even small ones. Stay away from game trails. Natural highways, for animals and people. Your ideal spot should be hard to reach, forcing anyone who finds you to work for it. It should sit in dead ground, hidden from likely observation points. Take your time. Spend an extra hour scouting. A well-chosen location is a passive defense that works for you 24/7. Once you've picked a sheltered area with good overhead cover and solid ground, refine your choice by considering nature's forces. Wind. Note prevailing. Wind direction. Smoke and cooking odors will carry that way. Position your cook area so smoke blows into a sparsely used area, away from trails and campsites. Water. Observe water runoff patterns. Look for small channels. Avoid setting up in those channels. Place camp on slightly higher, well-drained ground. This keeps you dry and prevents washing debris downstream. Look at the ground. Color and texture should guide your gear choices. Match gear to the season's colors. Use leaf litter to break up outlines. Tuck gear under logs and scatter debris. Pack out what you pack in. Leave no trace. Consider shadows and sun movement. North sides of hills and large rock formations hold shade longer. Use those spots for cooler, sheltered camps. With your location secured, the second rule of camouflage comes into play. Blend, don't build. This principle governs your physical footprint. Nature is organic, chaotic. The human world is straight and geometric. Straight lines, perfect right angles, uniform surfaces. A taut rectangular tarp is a red flag. A dome-shaped tent is a red flag. Eliminate these unnatural shapes from your campsite. Resist the urge to build a neat, tidy camp. Think like a painter. Use color and texture to extend the forest floor. Choose equipment before you bug out. Your shelter choice is paramount. Ditch brightly colored recreational tents. Blues, reds, oranges. Those colors are designed to be found. Use muted, earthy tones instead. Olive drab, coyote brown, dark gray. Tarps and bivy bags in those colors work best. Better still, disruptive patterns. Woodland, multicam. Material matters. Avoid shiny reflective fabrics. Cheap nylon, vinyl. Prefer a matte finish. No glint. Setup matters too. Never pull a tarp perfectly taut. A flat, tight rectangle reads unnatural. Create an amorphous, uneven structure. Use a ridgeline that sags slightly in the middle. Stake corners at different heights. Let fabric wrinkle and fold to create natural shadows. Make it look like a jumble of fallen debris. A collapsed pile, not a built object. Intentional sloppiness defeats visual detection. Messy, organic shapes are harder to spot than clean geometry. Apply this to all your gear. A black backpack can read as a dark hole. Choose a neutral earth tone pack, or cover it with a camouflage rain cover. Secure shiny objects out of sight, cooking pots, knives, water bottles. Turn them upside down or wrap them in cloth. Assess every item for shape and shine. Straight lines and reflective surfaces are liabilities. Soften, mute, and break down your presence until it merges with the background. Don't build a camp. Create a patch of ground that looks just like every other patch around it. Blending your shelter's color is only the first step. The next, and more advanced technique is to actively break up its outline. Even a well-colored tarp can be given away by its silhouette. That distinct edge where the object stops and the background begins. To truly become invisible, you must obscure this outline. The most effective way to do this is with a camouflage net. A good camo net, draped loosely over your tarp, will soften hard edges. It also adds three-dimensional texture that mimics the surrounding foliage. The holes in fabric strips create a chaotic pattern of light and shadow, making it difficult for the human eye, or a camera lens, to resolve the shape underneath. If you don't have a dedicated camouflage net, use natural materials from the immediate area. This technique is known as garnishing. Carefully gather fallen branches, gather leaves, gather clumps of grass, gather ferns. Don't strip them from living trees. That creates noticeable damage. Instead, use what is already on the ground. Drape these materials over your shelter's ridgeline. Drape them along its edges. Make the transition from your shelter to the forest floor seamless. Pile leaves and dirt around the base, obscuring the straight line where it meets the ground. This simple act of landscaping your shelter makes a tremendous difference in visibility. Remember that less is often more. Do not pile on so much debris that you create an unnaturally large mound. The application should be subtle and irregular. Place a few branches here, place a handful of leaves there. Step back 50 feet and look at your work from different angles. Does any part of it draw your eye? Are there any hard, straight edges still visible? Adjust accordingly. Your aim is to create a visual texture so complex and random that the eye simply slides over it. It's an art form that requires practice and a keen eye for what looks natural. If you're serious about surviving off the grid, subscribe to a small-town prepper. We teach the skills most people forget until it's too late. Finally, this principle of breaking up outlines extends to your own body. When you are moving around your camp or sitting still, you present a very distinct human silhouette. A simple boonie hat helps to break up the round shape of your head. A ghillie-style wrap, or a piece of camouflage netting draped over your shoulders can obscure the shape of your torso. Every element of your presence, from your shelter to your own body, must have its outline disrupted. By combining muted colors with broken silhouettes, you are not just hiding, you become part of the environment. This is the essence of blending, not building. You've chosen a perfect location and blended your shelter into the landscape. Now we come to the third, and perhaps most technically challenging rule of camouflage. You must control your heat and light. These are the two signatures that can betray you from the greatest distance, especially at night. Modern thermal imaging technology is exceptionally good at detecting temperature differences. A human body creates a powerful thermal signature, and a campfire glows like a flare through a thermal scope. Even on a cloudy day, or through moderate foliage, that heat can be seen. Your fire, a source of comfort and survival, is also your biggest thermal liability. Taming it is not optional. It is essential for remaining undetected in a world of electronic eyes. The most effective way to shield your fire's heat signature is to place it under solid overhead cover. A deep rock overhang or the cavity of an undercut riverbank is the ideal location. This solid mass of earth or stone acts as a natural insulator, absorbing the rising heat and preventing it from blooming upwards where an aerial thermal sensor could spot it. If such a perfect location is unavailable, your next best option is to dig. A Dakota fire hole, one for the fire, one for air intake. It contains the flames and heat below ground level, dramatically reducing the visible light and thermal signature. The ground itself becomes your shield, channeling the heat and light. What if digging is not feasible due to rocky soil or frozen ground? You can still build a low signature fire by constructing a thermal reflector wall. Build your fire next to a large rock face or a thick fallen log. Then, on the opposite side, build a wall of green logs or packed earth and stone. This setup creates a channel. The rock or log on one side absorbs and blocks heat, while your constructed wall on the other side reflects the heat and light inward, towards you and your shelter. This focuses the warmth where you need it most while simultaneously creating a physical barrier that helps hide the fire's glow and thermal bloom from prying eyes or sensors. You must also consider timing. A fire's thermal signature is most pronounced when the ambient temperature is at its lowest, typically in the dead of night. The contrast is stark. To minimize this, you should alter your routine. The best times to have a fire are during the transitional periods of dawn and dusk. At these times, the ground is either retaining some of the day's heat or has not yet fully cooled, making the thermal contrast from your fire less distinct. A small, quick fire to cook a meal and boil water during these windows is far safer than a large, roaring fire kept burning all night. Once you are done, extinguish it completely and disperse the ashes to erase its existence. Light discipline is just as critical as heat management, and for many, it's honestly a harder habit to learn. We're conditioned to flick on a light the moment it gets dark, but in a survival situation, that instinct is actually a catastrophic mistake. A bright white headlamp beam cuts through the darkness like a laser, visible for miles. It announces your exact position to anyone within line of sight. It also destroys your natural night vision, leaving you blind for several minutes after you turn it off. The first rule of light discipline is simple: use artificial light only when absolutely necessary, and never use more than you need. The darkness is your camouflage. Do not voluntarily give it up. When you must use a light, it should never be white. White light is the most jarring and easily detectable color in the spectrum. Instead, your headlamp or flashlight must have a red light setting. Red light has a longer wavelength, which is much harder to see from a distance and has a minimal impact on your eye's ability to adapt to the dark. A green light is a secondary but less ideal option. Even with a red light, you must use it sparingly and with care. Keep the beam pointed down at your immediate workspace. Better yet, use it under your tarp or other overhead cover to prevent any light from escaping upward. Just think of every photon as a potential traitor. Even without a fire or a flashlight, your camp is not entirely dark. The moon and stars can create reflections. A canteen, a knife blade, or even the screen of a phone or GPS device can catch this ambient light and produce a faint glint. This is why it is so important to police your gear. Before night falls, ensure every piece of reflective equipment is covered or stowed away. Turn any electronic devices completely off, not just on standby, as the faint glow of a screen can be surprisingly visible in pitch darkness. Your goal is to create a complete blackout. Your camp should be a void within the natural darkness of the forest, indistinguishable from its surroundings. Ultimately, the best way to manage light is to learn to operate without it. Your eyes are remarkable tools. If you allow them about 30 minutes to adjust, you can navigate and perform most simple camp tasks using only the available ambient light from the moon and stars. This is a skill that requires practice and patience. Spend time in the dark. Learn the layout of your camp by feel. Move slowly and deliberately. By embracing the darkness rather than fighting it, you not only make yourself nearly invisible, but you also heighten your other senses. You will hear more, feel more, and become far more attuned to the nocturnal environment around you. Silence and darkness are your allies. We have now controlled for sight, shape, heat, and light. The fourth rule of camouflage addresses a signature that travels through the thickest woods and darkest nights. Silence is survival. In the deep quiet of the wilderness, unnatural sounds travel with alarming clarity. The sharp crack of a breaking branch, the metallic clank of a pot, or even a raised voice can echo for hundreds of yards, alerting anyone nearby to your presence. A drone might not hear you, but a person on patrol, or a desperate scavenger, certainly will. Sound discipline is not just about being quiet. It is a constant, conscious effort to minimize your auditory footprint. Every action you take must be evaluated for the noise it creates. This is a battle of inches and decibels, where honestly, the quietest survive. Your gear is often the first and most frequent offender. A loaded backpack can be a symphony of squeaks, rattles, and clinks. Before you even head out, you must soundproof your equipment. Secure loose items inside your pack so they don't shift and knock against each other. Use tape, cloth wraps, or ranger bands to silence noisy zipper pulls and dangling buckles. Anything made of metal, like a cup or cook set, should be padded or nested within soft items like clothing. When you walk, your pack should be completely silent. This process, often called dummy cording or silencing, is a fundamental skill for anyone trying to move without being heard. The silence of your gear is the foundation of your personal stealth. Movement itself is the next layer of noise discipline. Learn to walk softly, rolling your foot from heel to toe to place it down gently rather than stomping. Pay attention to the ground in front of you, avoiding dry leaves and brittle twigs that will snap underfoot. This is the fox walk, a technique used by hunters for centuries. Move slowly and deliberately. When you stop, you should be able to freeze without a single sound from your body or your gear. Furthermore, you must time your movements. The periods of dawn and dusk, when wildlife is most active, provide a natural sound cover for your own activity. Birds and insects can mask the minor noises you inevitably make. Finally, if you are part of a group, you must enforce strict noise discipline for everyone. Break the group into smaller units for movement to reduce your collective noise and visual signature. Communicate with hand signals instead of spoken words whenever possible. When you must speak, do so in low whispers. Prohibit any unnecessary activity that creates noise, such as chopping wood. Instead, gather dry, fallen wood that can be broken by hand or with minimal effort. Your camp should operate with the quiet efficiency of a library. The constant awareness of sound and the deliberate effort to negate it is what separates the amateur from the survivor. In the end, the deadliest threats are the ones you never hear coming. You must afford them the same courtesy. We have covered location, blending, heat, light, and sound. You can master all 4 of these rules with perfect discipline, and still, your camp can be discovered with ease. This brings us to our 5th and final rule, the one that addresses the biggest mistake most preppers make. It's an error so fundamental that it unravels all other concealment efforts. Your most dangerous enemy is not a drone or a satellite, it is your own routine. Humans are creatures of habit. We find comfort in patterns, in doing the same things at the same time each day. In a survival scenario, this instinct for routine is a homing beacon that leads an adversary straight to your door. Predictability is the signature that technology is best at detecting. A single, isolated event, a flicker of light, a brief puff of smoke, can be dismissed as an anomaly, a trick of the light, or a natural phenomenon. But what if that puff of smoke appears in the exact same spot every day at dusk? What if a faint thermal signature blooms in the same location every morning around sunrise? That is no longer an anomaly, it is a pattern. And patterns mean people. Surveillance systems, whether human or algorithmic, are designed specifically to identify these patterns of life. They filter out the random noise of the environment to find the repeating signals. A cooking fire lit at 6 p.m. Every evening is not just a fire, it's a dinner appointment that you've just broadcast to the world. To defeat this, you must consciously inject chaos into your routine. Never use the same path to enter or leave your camp. Designate multiple routes for gathering water or firewood and alternate between them randomly. If you must have a fire, do not light it at the same time every day. One day, cook in the early morning. The next, cook in the late afternoon. The day after, you might rely on cold rations and have no fire at all. This irregularity makes it incredibly difficult for an observer to confirm your presence. They may detect a single event, but without repetition they cannot establish a pattern of life. You become a ghost in the data, a random blip that is logged and then ignored. This principle extends to every aspect of your camp life. Don't always perform the same chores in the same order. Don't always sit in the same spot to watch your surroundings. Break up your sleep schedule. The goal is to make your presence feel as random and chaotic as the natural world itself. A deer doesn't walk the same trail at the same time every day, and neither should you. This is the final layer of your invisibility. By mastering the first 4 rules, you hide your physical presence. By mastering this 5th rule, you hide your existence in time. You erase the rhythm of your life until there is nothing left for an observer to lock onto. Predictability gets you found. Randomness keeps you invisible. We have journeyed through the 5 fundamental rules of modern bug-out camouflage, a layered defense system designed to make you a ghost in a world of relentless surveillance. It begins with your most critical choice, location. Resisting the instinct for high ground, instead, sinking into the Earth's natural depressions under the thickest overhead cover is your first and most powerful shield. This is camouflage rule number 1. Location is everything. By selecting a site that is inherently difficult to see from the ground and the air, you let the landscape itself do the majority of the work for you. A well-chosen location is a passive defense that works tirelessly, day and night, to keep you hidden from prying eyes. both human and electronic. It is the bedrock upon which all other techniques are built. Next, we focused on erasing your man-made footprint with camouflage rule number 2, blend, don't build. This is the art of transforming your shelter and gear from foreign objects into integral parts of the environment. It means choosing muted, earth-toned equipment and avoiding the bright colors of recreational camping. It is the deliberate practice of setting up your tarp in an uneven, amorphous shape, and then garnishing it with natural debris to break up its outline and soften its edges. Every piece of gear, every surface, must be evaluated for its color, shine, and shape. By eliminating the straight lines and geometric forms that scream human, your camp ceases to be an addition to the landscape and instead merges seamlessly into it. Then, we tackled the invisible signatures of heat and light, with camouflage rule number 3, control heat and light. In an age of thermal imaging, your campfire is a glowing beacon. You learn to tame this liability by building fires in Dakota holes, under rock, overhangs, and by using thermal reflectors to channel and hide its bloom. We established the critical importance of light discipline, abandoning bright white headlamps in favor of dim, red light used only when absolutely necessary and under cover. Embracing the darkness, allowing your eyes to adjust, and blacking out all light sources makes you a void within the night, invisible to those who hunt with their eyes or with sensors. Finally, we covered the last 2, yet equally vital layers of concealment. Camouflage rule number 4, silence is survival, taught us to move like a whisper through the woods by silencing our gear and practicing stealthy movement. And most critically, camouflage. Rule number 5, don't become predictable, revealed the greatest vulnerability of all. Routine. By randomizing your activities, your cooking times, your travel paths, your daily chores, you erase the patterns of life that surveillance systems are designed to detect. You become a statistical ghost, an anomaly that can never be confirmed. In a real collapse, the best camp is the one no one ever finds. Stay prepared, stay hidden, and stay alive.